The spaceport was loud, crowded, and full of strange smells. Ships landed and took off every minute. Voices of aliens from 100 worlds echoed through the halls. Traders yelled. Security drones hovered. And in the middle of it all stood one man, a human named Cade, hands in his pockets, waiting for a cheap ride back to his workstation on the outer rim. He didn't belong there. That much was clear. Humans weren't common in this part of the galaxy, and those who did come usually stayed quiet, kept their heads down. Cade didn't talk much. His job was simple: repair old ships, keep to himself, avoid trouble, but trouble found him anyway. A strange woman bumped into him. She was wearing a long, dark cloak that covered everything but her glowing eyes. Looked frightened, always glancing over her shoulder. She said nothing. Just stood in line behind him, hands shaking slightly, breathing fast. Cade felt something. Not love, not attraction, something else. Something like instinct, danger, and then it happened. A sharp whistle cut through the crowd. People turned. A figure raised a laser rifle. Cade's eyes locked onto the man with the weapon tall, his armored face hidden behind a metal visor. His aim was clear, not at the crowd.
Not at random.
He was aiming at her. Cade didn't think. He moved one step, then two, then he leaped through the air. The blast fired. It wasn't a sound, it was a pulse. Bright red light tore through the air. And then silence. Cade crashed into the woman, shielding her with his body. The laser hit him in the back. He gasped, the heat slicing through skin, muscle, pain spreading like fire. He collapsed on top of her. She froze. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled under his weight. People screamed. Some ran. Guards shouted. More weapons appeared. But in that one moment, everything seemed to pause. He was bleeding badly. He groaned, trying to move, but couldn't. Then he felt her hands on his face. He expected fear, panic, maybe even anger. But what he saw in her glowing eyes was something else. Shock. Tears welled up. She whispered, almost too soft to hear, "You don't even know who I am." He tried to speak. Couldn't she touch something on her wrist? A small device blinked blue. That's when everything changed. A flash of light surrounded them both, a loud whoosh. And suddenly, the spaceport was gone. He woke up in a small ship, cold metal, humming engines, pain in his back. He blinked. The woman was sitting beside him, no longer wearing the cloak. Her skin was smooth, golden blue, with markings like flowing water across her cheeks. Her hair shimmered silver under the ship lights. She wasn't just beautiful, she looked royal. She didn't speak at first, just stared at him. He tried to sit up, groaning in pain. "Where am I? Safe." "For now," she answered quietly. He blinked again. Did you teleport us?" She gave a slight nod. "Emergency beacon, one-time use." Cade chuckled, even though it hurt. "Guess I used it well." She didn't smile. Instead, she said, "You should have let me die." That made him freeze. "What?" "Don't understand," she whispered. "They were not trying to kill just any woman. I was the target. And now you've made yourself one too." Cade frowned. "Look, I saw someone about to shoot you. What was I supposed to do? Just watch?" "Turned away? You're human. Should have walked away." He felt his chest burn, half from the injury, half from her words. Is that what everyone expects from humans out here? She looked at him again. "You don't know what you've done." He stared at her. "Then explain it." Long pause. The engines hummed. The stars outside the window looked cold. Finally, she spoke slowly and quietly. "I am not just a woman. My name is Valera. I am the last living heir to the Solari throne. My planet was taken. My family killed. I've been hunted for years. And now, because of your actions, they know I'm still alive." Cade blinked. "Queen." He whispered. "No," she said, eyes glowing with sorrow. "Just a shadow of one." He leaned back against the cold wall. Pain pulsing through his body. "Well," he said, trying to breathe through the ache. "If I had known I was taking a bullet for a queen, maybe I would have ducked." She stared at him, Then Finalia's small smile touched her lips. It vanished just as quickly. Rest now, human. We're not safe yet. As Cade closed his eyes again, one thought echoed in his mind. What did I just get myself into? Asterisk the engines. Screamed louder than before. Cade woke up again, but this time the pain was sharper, deeper. Clutched his side and gritted his teeth. The ship was shaking like it was flying through a storm, though outside the windows only stars stretched. Endlessly. He sat up slowly. The bandage around his back was tight. Blood had soaked through. Ahead of him, Queen Valera sat in the pilot's seat, her fingers flying across the controls. Her jaw was clenched. Her silver hair stuck to her cheek with sweat. Red lights flashed. Across the dashboard, they were under attack. What's going on? Cade asked, coughing. She didn't look at him. They found us. Already? She nodded once. The Council's spies are everywhere. Once the beacon was activated, it left a trail. We had no choice. Can't you shake them? Trying, she snapped. Not out of anger, but pressure. This ship isn't built for combat. The whole vessel jerked sideways as a blast grazed their wing. Alarms wailed. Something sparked above Cade's head. He dragged himself to the co-pilot's seat, ignoring the fire in his back. What do you need me to do? She stared at him like he was insane. You can barely walk? Yeah, but I can press buttons. He said, and I don't like dying in space. Valera hesitated, then nodded. Stabilized the back thrusters. I'll switch to manual control. Cade did as she said. His fingers were slower than hers, but he moved with care. The ship dipped, then twisted between two massive floating rocks, asteroid debris from an ancient battle. A huge cruiser followed them. Its black hull looked like a monster crawling through space. Its cannons locked on again. They're not firing to destroy, Valera muttered. Cade glanced at her. Then what are they doing? They want me alive. You? Maybe not so much. Another. Blast hit them, this time closer. The ship tumbled, spiraling toward a frozen moon. Valera Cade shouted, We're gonna crash! Hold on. She pulled the controls hard. The ship roared, then dove beneath the enemy's sensors. For a few seconds, everything was silent, too silent. They coasted through a cloud of space dust and vanished from radar. Valera exhaled. Cade slumped back, heart racing. Did we lose? Them? He asked. She didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she nodded. For now. They landed in a cave carved into the side of a broken asteroid. The hangar looked old, abandoned, but someone had left signs. Burned barrels, metal crates, and a torn banner with strange alien writing. As they stepped out, Cade stumbled. His body was failing, but he forced himself forward. Valera placed a hand on his arm, not to help, but to steady him. This way, she said. Where are we? An old rebel hideout. My people once used this place long ago. As they walked deeper, shadows moved. Then from the darkness, figures stepped out, Talians in cloaks, armor, and old battle gear. They raised weapons. Hold, Valera commanded. Lifting her hand, a few gasped. One stepped forward, dropping to one knee. Your Majesty, he whispered, you live. Others followed, kneeling, bowing. Cade stood silently, watching the scene. For the first time, he understood what she meant. She wasn't just royalty. She was hope-living proof that the rebellion still had a heart. Valera gave them a nod and turned to Cade. He saved me, she said simply. He took a laser to the back and still helped me fly this ship. A few aliens frowned. One whispered, a human? Another said, he doesn't belong here. Cade didn't flinch. Didn't want to be here either, he said. Queen has a way of dragging people into trouble. Oh, Valera smirked slightly, then grew serious. He's earned protection. That means he stays. The rebels looked uneasy. Cade crossed his arms. Guess if anyone wants me gone, you'll have to beat me in arm wrestling. A few laughed. One stepped forward, a tall female. Alien with glowing blue tattoos and a deep scar across her cheek. I'll take that challenge, she said. Valera raised a hand. Later, she turned to Cade and said softly, "You're safe. For now, but you need rest." "Only if you promise not to vanish again," he replied. "I can't promise that. Didn't think so." She walked away, leaving him alone in a sea of strange eyes. But in that moment, Cade understood something. He was no longer just a mechanic from the Outer Rim. He was the man who took a laser for a queen. Now the war wasn't something far away. He was part of it, and they were all watching what he'd do next. The silence of the cave was heavy. Even though Cade was alive, fed, and no longer bleeding, he couldn't rest, not truly. The stone walls echoed with whispers and stares. Everywhere he turned, alien eyes followed him, not with kindness, but with suspicion. A few looked angry, others curious. But none of them looked like they trusted him. He didn't blame them. He was the only human in a rebel base full of outlaws, warriors and fugitives. And somehow, he had become the man who saved their queen. A queen he knew nothing about. Late that night, Cade couldn't sleep. The bedding was rough, the cave cold, his back still ached. But something else kept him awake. Questions. Why had she been alone? Why were they still chasing her? Why did even her own people seem afraid? So he got up and wandered deeper into the cave, where glowing roots lit the stone paths in dim blue. He found her at the far edge of the outpost, standing near an old war banner. Queen Valera wasn't wearing her cloak. Her silver hair hung loose, and her bare shoulders were marked with soft blue-line symbols of her bloodline. Glowing faintly under the light, she didn't turn when he arrived. "You shouldn't be out here," she said. "Couldn't sleep." A long pause. Then she whispered, "Neither can I." Cade stepped closer, but didn't interrupt. Finally, she turned to him. "Do you know why they're still hunting me?" she asked. He shook his head. "'Cause you're the last royal." Nodded, but her face tightened. "That's part of it, but not the whole truth." She reached into her cloak and pulled out a small orb. It hovered in the air between them, then projected a hologram image of a young alien girl, no older than 10, smiling beside a tall woman in ceremonial robes. Her mother, the queen before her. Then the image changed. Flames, war, destruction, a palace falling, screams, soldiers firing on their own people. Cade watched quietly. "That's what happened to my world," Valera said, her voice thin. "My mother was betrayed by her own council. They made a deal with the Galactic Dominion. In return for power, they sold our freedom." Cade frowned. "You escaped?" "Barely. A servant smuggled me out in a cargo ship. I was 12. I've been hiding ever since." She let the orb fade. "But you're not hiding anymore," he said. "No," she agreed, "because now they know I'm alive. And the moment I stood in that spaceport beside you, everything changed." Cade looked away, trying to piece it together. "So what now? You rally your people? Take back your world?" Valera didn't answer right away. Instead, she sat on a rock and stared at her hands. "My people don't need a queen who ran. They need someone who fights." Cade knelt beside her. "Then fight." She glanced at him. "What would you know about rebellion?" "I don't," he admitted. "But I know what it means to be underestimated." He paused. "All my life I was told humans are nothing, weak, unwanted. But you know what? We survive. We adapt. We don't quit." Valera's lips curved slightly. "You're not like other humans I've met," she said. "That's what I'm told," he said with a small grin. A soft silence followed. Then Valera's voice grew colder. "There's more," she whispered. "More reason they want me dead?" Cade raised a brow. "What reason?" She looked him dead in the eye. "I carry something inside me, something older than my crown. Code. My blood holds the activation key to the Solari War Network." Cade's eyes widened. "You mean weapons?" "Not just weapons," she said. "Archives, data, hidden ships, a system no one has accessed in 100 years." He sat back. "So they're not just afraid of your title. They're afraid of what you could unlock." She nodded. "If I reach the Crown Vault before they do, I could bring back everything they buried." That hit hard. "You're not just a queen. he muttered. "You're a walking threat." "Exactly," she said. "And anyone near me becomes a target." Cade rubbed his face. "Well, it's a little late for me to back out now." She tilted her head. "You're serious?" He stood. "You're not going to win this war alone. You need someone who can. Fix a ship under fire, think on his feet, and take a laser for a stranger." Valera looked up at him longer this time, and for the first time since he met her, her guard dropped. "I could use someone like that," she whispered. Just then, a voice echoed down the corridor. "Your Majesty, you need to come now." Both of them ran back toward the command chamber. A rebel showed them a cracked device glowing red. "It's a transmission," he said. "Intercepted from the Dominion fleet." The screen lit up with a message. "The Queen is alive. Reward. Offered her blood must never reach the vault." Everyone looked at Valera, and for the first time, she didn't flinch. She looked at Cade. He nodded once, and that's when she said it. "Then we reach it first." Asterisk, they gave him a locker, a worn jacket, and a pair of boots that didn't fit. That was how Cade officially became part of the rebellion. No ceremony. No salute, just an unspoken truth. He was now one of them. But not everyone liked it, as he limped. Through the stone corridors of the base, whispers followed him like shadows. The human. Why is he still here? She trusts him too much. Cade ignored it. He'd been judged before on space stations, backwater planets, mechanic, hangars. 2 aliens, humans were still the bottom rung. Weak, soft, disposable. They called him many things, but now had something they didn't. He had bled for their queen. "Stand straight," shouted the training officer. The courtyard echoed with the sound of weapons clashing. Rebels trained in pairs blades, hand-to-hand, energy rifles. Cade was out of place, surrounded by warriors who had grown up on battlefields. His back still hurt. His movements were slower, but his eyes were sharp. "Your stance is garbage," said a tall alien named Rurik, walking circles around him. His arms were tattooed with kills. His voice was cold. "Humans are fragile. You're not built for this." Cade raised his training staff again. "Then maybe you should hit harder." Rurik's eyes narrowed. The next strike came fast and brutal. Cade barely blocked it. His arms shook. His boots scraped across the dirt. But he didn't fall. Another strike, then another. Cade's grip slipped. His staff cracked in half. The others laughed. But instead of stepping back, Cade charged forward, empty-handed, and slammed his shoulder into Rurik's chest. The alien stumbled. The laughter stopped. Cade spat blood. "You're bigger, stronger, but you fight like you expect to win. That's your weakness." Rurik stared at him for a long second. Then he nodded once and walked away. Later that evening, Cade sat alone by the fire pit, rapping his knuckles. "Queen." Valera approached silently. "You made an impression," she said. He winced. "Wasn't trying to. You challenged Rurik. Most don't." "I didn't win," he replied. "No," she agreed, "but you didn't lose either. That matters." They sat in silence for a while. The fire crackled. Sparks floated into the air like dying stars. Cade looked over. "You don't trust me." "They will," she said. "You sure about that?" "Oh," she admitted. "But I trust you." That caught him off guard. She stared into the flames. "I've trusted too many who betrayed me. But you, without knowing who I was, without expecting reward, you took the hit." Cade nodded slowly. "I'm not trying to be a hero," he said. "I just couldn't watch you die." Valera looked at him, something soft behind her warrior eyes. Sometimes that's the rarest kind of courage. The next day, they received word. A Dominion scout ship was orbiting nearby, too close. "Too soon. We can't let them report back," said the rebel commander. "We strike first." Valera laid out the plan. A small team, 1 ship. Board the scout vessel, plant a disruptor beacon, and vanish before reinforcements arrive. Cade stood. "I'm going." The room fell quiet. The commander frowned. "You're injured." "I've flown salvage runs through asteroid fields, half blind and bleeding. Cade replied. I can do this. Valera gave a small nod. He goes. The commander didn't argue further. The mission was chaos from the start. They reached. The enemy ship latched onto its underbelly and broke in through the cargo bay. Alarms blared, soldiers poured in. Cade ducked behind crates, shooting with stolen rifles. The rebels moved fast, clean, deadly. They reached the core. Cade planted the beacon. Then the ship shook, hit by something from above. We have a problem, someone shouted. The second ship just dropped out of warp, trapped. Cade turned to Valera. We won't make it out the way we came. Stared at the ceiling. Her mind raced. There's an escape tunnel through the coolant ducts, she said. Barely wide enough for one. Then go, Cade said. I'll hold them. She grabbed his arm. You won't survive. I know, he said with a grin. But maybe I'll get lucky again. Valera looked at him, really looked at him. Why do you keep risking your life for me? He met her eyes. Because for once, I want to matter. She hesitated, then leaned in and pressed her forehead gently to his. It wasn't a kiss, but it felt more powerful. Then don't die, she whispered. The rebels escaped. The beacon worked. The Dominion ship was erased from sensors disabled and forgotten in the void. Cade made it out too, limping back onto the rebel craft just before. The hatch sealed, he collapsed. Alive barely, but now when he walked through the corridors, no one whispered anymore. They nodded. The human who wasn't supposed to matter now, he did. The silence before betrayal is always calm. The rebellion had survived the last strike. They celebrated quietly, rationing food and laughter. Cade's injuries were healing. Queen Valera smiled more. For once, hope didn't feel so dangerous. But hope is a fragile thing. And in the shadows of the old asteroid base, someone was watching, listening, waiting. Cade stood at the training field again, this time not as a student, but as an instructor. Aliens of all sizes gathered around him, listening to his breakdown of Dominion tech. If this model's scanner lights flash in a blue pattern, he explained, pointing to the damaged helmet in his hands, it means it's out of ammo. That's when you rush in. One young alien raised a hand, and if it flashes red, Cade chuckled. Then you run. They laughed. Even Rurik, the warrior who once mocked him, gave a nod of respect. But someone else in the crowd wasn't laughing. A thin, quiet alien named Thren, always in the background, always watching too closely. Later that night, Valera called a secret meeting in the command room. The air was tense. Dim lights glowed over the map of the galaxy. We've received word, she said. The Dominion is gathering near the vault. Gasps rose around the room. Cade narrowed his eyes. You mean the place you told me about where your blood unlocks? Everything? She nodded. They're trying to reach it before I do. If they succeed, the galaxy will never be free. A rebel officer shook his head. But how did they learn the vault's location? It was erased from all records. No one spoke. Then Valera's voice dropped. There's a traitor. Tss. Everyone went still. She walked around the table, looking at each face. Someone inside. This base has been sending out coded transmissions. Short, hidden, but real. Cade clenched his jaw. How long? A few days? Why didn't you tell me? He asked. I needed to be sure, she said softly. I needed to watch them. Cade exhaled slowly, and we'd better find them fast. But even then, the damage had already begun. That same night, someone tampered with the defense systems. The shields dropped for only 30 seconds, but 30 seconds was enough. A blast hit the eastern wall of the base. Explosions rang through. The hall's screams echoed. Smoke poured through the corridors. Dominion shock troops swarmed inside. Cade grabbed a rifle and ran. Protect the queen. Someone shouted, but Valera wasn't running. She was leading the charge. Cade fought like a man who'd already died once and wasn't afraid to do it. Again, he slammed into the enemy with fury and fire. He pulled wounded rebels to safety, barked. Commands disabled a heavy drone with nothing but a pipe and a grenade. Then he saw it, Thren. It's a quiet one, sneaking away through a side tunnel. Cade followed him. The tunnel led to an old transmitter room. Inside, Thren was typing fast on a glowing console. "Step away," Cade said, raising his weapon. Thren froze, then slowly turned. "It's too late." Cade's heart dropped. "Why?" "You don't understand," Thren said. "The Queen can't win. If she does, the galaxy burns again. She'll wake the weapons. She'll call down fire." Cade's voice was steady. "You chose the Dominion. I chose order," Thren spat. "And you're just a human who thinks he matters." Cade didn't answer. He fired once. The console exploded. Thren dropped, unconscious. The signal was cut, but it wasn't over. Back in the main chamber, the rebels held their ground. The Queen stood at the front, her blade glowing, her robes torn, face smeared with smoke, but still proud. They pushed the Dominion soldiers back, inch by inch, until finally retreat. The enemy fled. The base stood damaged, burning but standing. Bodies lay still. Some rebels, some enemies. Among them, one name was repeated in murmurs. Cade stopped the signal. He didn't smile. Too many had died, too much had changed. Later, as the fires were put out and the wounded were treated, Cade stood alone at the edge of the base. Valera approached, her steps slow. "You found the traitor," she said. "Too late." Cade replied, "People still died. But more would have died if you hadn't acted." He looked at her. "This war, it's getting uglier." She nodded. "Yes. And it will get worse before it gets better." Then she surprised him. She reached out and placed her hand on his chest, right over the faint scar where the laser had struck him days ago. "You have saved me more than once," she whispered. "But this, ... this saved the rebellion." Cade didn't know what to say, so he said nothing. They stood in silence, side by side, while the stars burned above them. And in that silence, one truth became clear. This wasn't about royalty anymore. It was about survival. And Kata, the human who wasn't supposed to matter, was now at the heart of it all. Asterisk, it was never supposed to be him. The plan was written, the team selected, the route mapped. A stealth squad of elite rebels would fly into the Dominion capital, sneak into the broadcast tower, and activate the Queen's message to the galaxy. But now, most of that squad was dead. After the betrayal, after the attack, all that remained was one ship, one man, and his name was Cade. The rebel hangar was quiet, lit only by the soft blue glow of the control panels. Mechanics worked in silence, loading the small infiltration vessel with supplies. The Queen stood near the ramp, her hands behind her back, her eyes unreadable. "You don't have to do this," Adelara said quietly. Cade zipped up the flight suit. "Yeah, I do. You could die. I almost did. Remember?" He smiled. "At this point, it's a habit." She didn't laugh. Instead, she stepped closer. "This isn't a simple run. The Dominion Tower is inside the most secure zone. In the galaxy, hundreds of guards, scanners, drones, biolocks." Cade tightened the straps across his chest. "Good thing I've got a few tricks." "Cade," she said, her voice lower now, "if they catch you, it won't just kill you." He met her eyes. "Then they better not catch me." There was a long pause. A kind of silence where neither wanted to speak because too much was left unsaid. Finally, she handed him a small vial glowing silver blue. "What's this?" he asked. "My blood," she replied. "It's coded. The last piece needed to unlock the Voltan, the truth." He stared at it. "Feels too light." "It's not," she said. "It carries the weight of 1,000 years." Cade launched. Alone, the ship slipped into subspace, sliding past sensors and Dominion scouts. The stars turned into streaks. His fingers flew over controls, bypassing minefields and encryption webs. He barely breathed. Hours passed. Then he dropped out of warprite above the Dominion homeworld. Below him, a tower rose like a black spire piercing the clouds, taller than mountains, surrounded by floating platforms, patrol ships, and glowing barriers. He had one shot, one entry point, the sewer tunnels beneath the city. Forgotten, unguarded, foul, but it would lead him into the base of the tower. He flew low, dodged patrols, and crashed the ship into the sludge below. It sank behind him as he climbed into the tunnel. No turning back, inside the Dominion capital. Everything smelled of oil and control. Clean hallways, steel walls, robotic guards. He crept through vents, avoided sensors, stole an officer's ID badge. Every move was careful. Every step mattered. Once a drone hovered inches from his face. He held his breath. It passed. His heartbeat never slowed. He finally reached the towers. Cora circular chambers surrounded by energy conduits and a massive projection screen facing the galaxy. This was it. He inserted the vial. The machine scanned it, confirmed identity. Queen Valera confirmed. The vault opened in the system. Files lit up across the screen. Truths erased from history. Videos of the Dominion bombing innocent colonies. Transcripts of the betrayal of the Celery Empire. Hidden records of peace offers that were ignored. The galaxy would finally know. He pressed transmit all. A timer appeared. 60 seconds, and then a voice echoed behind him. Step away from the console. Cade turned. A tall alien stepped into the light black armor. Face like a skull carved from silver. The High Commander of the Dominion. Cade's breath caught. So, the commander sneered. This is the human everyone whispers about. I expected. More scars. Cade raised his fists. You'll leave with one. The commander laughed. You're weak, flesh and bone. Not worthy of this moment? Cade shrugged. Funny, still standing. The alien charged. They fought, brutal. Every punch hurt. Every blow cracked something inside Cade's ribs, but he didn't fall. The timer ticked. The timer ticked down. 10 ... 8 ... The commander reached for the panel to cancel the upload. Cade tackled him, driving both of them into the wall. 7 ... 5 ... 5 ... The alien pulled a blade, slashed Cade's arm. Blood spilled, but Cade, barely standing, reached into his boot and drove a hidden knife into the alien's side. The commander screamed, 4 ... 3 ... 2 ... Cade kicked him off and slammed his hand on the final switch. 1 ... Transmission sent. The galaxy saw everything. Moments later, rebel ships arrived. They stormed the tower. Cade lay on the floor, breathing shallow, blood soaking through his suit. He smiled, then passed out. When he opened his eyes again, he was on a medical bed. The Queen sat beside him. You did it? She whispered. Cade blinked. You're welcome. She laughed softly, tears in her eyes. The galaxy knows now, thanks to you. Cade looked at her, exhausted. Was I worth all this trouble? She leaned closer. You were the only one who ever saw me as more than a title. Then she kissed his forehead and whispered something only he heard. And now the galaxy will remember your name. The galaxy had changed. Not in a loud explosion, not in one sudden moment, but in the quiet way people began to see. The truth had been broadcast, across stars, across systems. Slaves turned their heads. Soldiers lowered their guns. Citizens looked at the Dominion and felt shame for what they believed. For what they ignored, the illusion cracked, and behind that crack stood one. Woman Queen Veller and one human Cade. He wasn't supposed to survive, not with the wounds he took, not with the way he bled out on the floor of the enemy's most guarded tower, but somehow he did. He opened his eyes days later in a healing chamber aboard a rebel flagship. His body was wrapped in medical film. Machines hummed. Lights blinked, but the first thing he saw wasn't the ceiling, it was her Valera, sitting in the chair beside him. Her hand wrapped gently around his. You're awake, she said softly. He blinked, not sure if that's a good thing. Is? She smiled. He tried to sit up, winced. She pressed him back gently. You're not healed yet. I don't think I ever will be, he muttered. You will, she said, because I need you. Over the next few weeks, as his body recovered, the galaxy shifted. Old allies came out of hiding. Entire planets revolted. Rebel cells connected. Through a single voice, hers, and everywhere her message played, one image repeated. A human. Standing in the heart of the Dominion. Bleeding. Fighting. Pressing the final switch. Cade's name, spread like a story whispered through campfires and radio waves. Children began pretending to be him. Soldiers painted his face on war banners. Even aliens who once looked down on humanity now raised their glasses in his honor. But Cade never let it go to his head. He didn't want to be famous. He just wanted her to be safe. One evening, after the new rebel base was fully constructed on a freed moon, Valera walked with Cade through a glass corridor overlooking a valley full of blooming crystal flowers. Her guards followed at a distance but far enough to give them space. You never asked me what happens next, she said. Cade looked out. The window. Didn't think it was my place. You've earned that place, she replied. He chuckled softly. I was just a mechanic, remember? You were a shield, then a blade, then a voice. She stopped walking and turned toward him. I want you beside me, not just as a guard, but as someone who reminds me who I am and what I'm fighting for. Studied her face. You mean like an advisor? She took his hand. No, I mean as my partner. Cade froze. Not because he didn't want it, but because he did, and because no one in his entire life had ever looked at him like that, like he belonged. You're sure? He asked. Valera smiled. I faced assassins, betrayal, and war. I've never been more sure of anything. He took a breath, then nodded once. Then I'm yours. Fully. Months later, the ceremony was held under the open sky of a newly liberated planet. No crown was placed on her head. She didn't need one. The people already bowed. They didn't wear royal clothes. They didn't speak in ancient languages. They simply stood, side by side, hand in hand, as the people chanted two names, Valera and Cade. Not queen and protector, not ruler and warrior, but two souls who had given everything and found each other in the ashes that night. As they stood, on a balcony overlooking a city full of light, Valera leaned against him and whispered, You know they'll come again. He nodded. The Dominion never rests. Will you stand by me when they do? He wrapped his arm around her. I'll stand by you until the stars burn out. She looked up at him, eyes glowing soft. And when I fall, you won't, he said, because if I have to throw myself in front of another laser, I will. She smiled, still reckless. He grinned. And under the stars, where war had once ruled, where blood had once stained every promise, there was now only peace, and a story that would be told across every world. In every tongue of a queen who survived, of a human who stood tall, and of a love that lit the galaxy.